So in this video, I'll be showing you how you can use Bloompulse to manage your makeup business. I'll be showing from three perspectives: the owner, the manager, and the staff member. So first of all, as the owner, this is what you see, the most important information you need, which is how well the business is doing. So you can see how close you are for the current month to breaking even. You can also see the amount of income that you have. This is profit or loss for the current month. You could also see the total revenue that's coming and the total amount spent for the current month. You can also see here the orders and the number of units and the customers that have done business with you this month. You can also split that view and check for the last 3 months or any particular range you have in mind to check for. So as the business owner, this is the most important information you want to be monitoring on a day-to-day basis. Now, that information is gotten from the expenses primarily. Now, in a typical makeup expenses, you have salaries. So you have your manager here with the salary and your staff member with the salary. You also have rent. So rent for your space, your workspace, or your working center. All the expenses that goes into making the place functional, like fuel, electric bill, all that gets recorded here. You also record your makeup products as you buy them. In this place, I have the palettes, black up airbrush, I have a lip pencil and eyeshadow, and so on and so forth. So it's very easy to record. You simply click on add new expense, and let's say I want to record electric bill. I record it and I save, and that's fine. Now, let's say I want to add another expense, that is MAC foundation, for instance. Now, that will be under tools and equipment. Let's say that costs around 75,000. And there, under period, you want to select how long you expect the foundation to last. So typically, if you expect it to last 3 months or 6 months, you can set that here. So I'll set 3 months and continue. And then here you just set what the expense is used for. So the foundation is typically used for application and blending. So I set that here and I save. Okay. So we have that here. So as you incur expenses, you record them here, and the system helps you break it down into monthly. So your foundation year costs 25,000 per month for the 3-month period that you set, and so on and so forth. You end up having a total expense of 430,000. So this keeps on increasing as you spend more and more. Also, the reason why we are assigning different percentages when we create the expense is just so that you can see all the activities that is involved in your business, and you can see how much it is costing you for the current month. The next thing that contributes to it is all the products you have. So in this account, I've set up the typical products for a makeup business. In studio makeup session, this is when someone walks into your studio. I've also set up an outdoor makeup session. This is when you send a staff to go out to the client's location, and you also have logistics which goes with that. So typically you would charge for the makeup session and also charge for logistics depending on the location of the person. So I've just set up some typical logistics. I've also added bridal. For this one, I set it up to be 1-day wedding or 2-day wedding. And finally, I have gele tie-in. So all those products are the typical products that a makeup business, I imagine, would use. If you notice, we also see this called the cost price. So the cost price essentially comes from your expenses. If you want to understand how much of your expenses goes into your product, this is the best place to see that. So for instance, for an in-studio makeup session, the activities that goes into it is the application, the blending, and finishing touches, and that's all. And here you just set up how much time it takes to do both. So it takes 20 minutes for finishing touches, and it takes 30 minutes to get the actual makeup application. And based on that, the system tells you that you're spending this amount. Now, this amount comes from your expenses and the cost of these activities. So if you go back to expenses, you can see that if you check activities based on all the expenses that you've added in your business. The system breaks that down to say it's costing your business this amount per hour. All the activities are broken down into hourly costs so that it's easy for you to see here just how much each variant of the product costs your business. Now, with all that set up, the next thing that you want to do is to create orders. Now, I will show you how to create orders from the perspective of a manager. To add the manager for your business, you go to settings and you click on manage members, and then you simply add the person. You enter the email address of the person. So let's say I enter this email. Now this is where you configure the different things you want the member to be able to have access to. For a manager, you probably want them to be able to view all expenses of the business. You want them to be able to view all orders, and you also want them to view products. But you might not want them to view the financial analysis. That's the dashboard I showed you earlier. So I'll send invite. So let's sign out of this account and log in as the manager. Okay, I've logged in as the manager now. And first of all, you notice that there is no dashboard. What they have access to is products. They also have access to orders, and they also have access to expenses. And what you notice is that all the expenses are visible to them. Similarly to all the orders are visible to them. That is because we set it up in the permissions. To add a new order, say add new order, and then they set the customer name, they set the date here, and select the products, bridal, glam, and it's a one-day wedding. And depending on how much you negotiated with the customer, and let's say you also negotiated to do the makeup for the bridesmaids as well, you can add that here as well as let's say I'll go with outdoor makeup session, and I'll put the signature glam. Let's say the person has 3 bridesmaids or 4, I can do that to 4, and I negotiated instead 100,000 per person. I can set that here, and so it turns out that the total payment for this would be 700,000. Now, if I've received full payment, I click that here. If not, I can set the exact amount I've received. Let's say the customer has paid 200,000 down payment. So I can write that here and I can submit. That shows up here. You can record a payment. Now the person has made an extra payment of 120,000. You can save that here. You can also add a note here about something that happened in the order. So location, for example. All right, and finally you can record some expenses. So as a manager, I can imagine the typical things that a manager will be doing is recording the business expenses as they spend money, and they would also be recording orders as orders come in. The final view would be for a staff member that goes out to perform makeup. You don't want to expose too much of the business information, so that person cannot see all expenses. They can't see all the expenses that the business owner and the manager can see. They can also see all the orders, but they can record expenses that they incur, or they can record any orders that they receive directly. So coming back to this view as the owner of the business, the beauty of Bloompulse is that it allows you to keep track of the numbers of your business on a real-time basis as the month progresses.